Yeah.
And it's kind of good, you know. I'm glad it's like George Cambosa's fight,
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
like the
yeah.
week before mine. It's a bit of an
Yeah,
amp
yeah.
up right before, you know.
Yeah.
It's always good
Yeah.
to have
Good
that.
energy. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So we're
Yeah.
coming into fight week very, very hyped up, mate. I've had a very long camp, a good camp, um, and just I feel like I've come up another level in this camp. You know, we did that Thailand trip and stuff. So, mate,
Mm.
everything's really good. It's been really good. I
How was
can't
that
fault
Thailand
it.
trip? Was that your first time you doing something like that, or you've done it
No, I've
before?
been
Or?
there maybe 3 times now. We've done
Yeah,
a bit of a
yeah,
camp there. And look, it was really good. We went
yeah.
straight in, and we only went for 2 weeks, but man, it was a well worth trip. We got some great sparring in, and I actually had a fight over there as well. Got a second round knockout, so it was a keep
Yeah, I
busy
saw
fight, but
that.
man,
Yeah.
it was good. It was a well
Was
worth
that
trip. And
always part of the plan, the whole fight thing, or did that was it while you were there it kind of popped up?
well,
Or
we sort of did, but it just didn't know if it was going to line up and work. But Brendan was able to work his magic and got a show and got us on a show. And yeah, mate, it was really good.
yeah. Talk a little bit about your prep, man. I mean, the one thing I gotta hand it to you, bro, you're always active as well. You're always looking to fight,
Thank you.
which is impressive. And tell me a little bit about how training's been. And I think, we spoke way before the zoo fight. So like tell me a little bit about that experience. I mean, we never really got to chat like just me and you, but talk a little bit about that experience. And I feel like regardless of the result, you would have gone away. And I feel like, I could just imagine you would have just leveled up in so many different areas and just
Yeah,
that experience alone would have just been something amazing for yourself. But talk a bit about
yeah.
that experience and just, I guess post fight, what was kind of going through your thoughts and yeah.
Yeah, like you look, 2021 was a crazy year for
Mm,
everything. You know, it was just in so many ways. I grew as a person in lots of different ways. You know, becoming a father, and then obviously taking the fight with Brew Baker. You know, put my name out there in a huge way, and that landed me that
that,
fight
that
with
made
Zoo.
me a
And
fan, bro. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and then to taking that fight with Zoo, and the lessons I've learned from last year, I've taken to this year, and I feel like I'm a whole new human being. You know, in so many ways, inside the ring and outside the ring, of course. But the ones from inside the ring was also, after the Brubaker fight, I had a bit of a broken hand and I had a bit of time off, and obviously the Zoo fight come up only on the 6 days notice. So it was, look, I jumped at that opportunity because I knew I'm the type of person I would have just kicked myself forever if I look back in 3 years' time and said, hey,
Mm,
what if, what if? So it was, it's one of those things of, it was a great opportunity, a great experience. We got what we, wanted out. I went out there and had a crack with what I had, with the fitness I had, with the 6 days training that I had. I went out there and I was like, no matter what happens, I'm going to go out there and make a huge account of myself in the time that I have in me. And I feel like I did do that. I made the most of the media. I made the most of the occasion. And I feel like people got behind me for that reason. I didn't try to be someone I was not. I just went out there and be myself and gave it everything I had for the time I had. And look, we didn't get the result, but I'm proud and I hold my head high because I know back at my weight, which I am now, and with training behind me, I believe I'll be a world champion. I'm destined for it. I'm 25 years old. You look at Tim and Cambosis, they're 27, 28. I've still got a lot of years behind me and a lot of youth and a lot of experience to gain. And that's just what that fight was. After the fight, it was, okay, let's get straight back into the gym now. I let the hands heal up and straight back into the fitness and didn't let myself get away and the fitness get away. I mean, we planned a fight to come back with River Days in December. Unfortunately, I broke my rib. But then,
mm.
it started this year, mate, really good March. We had that fight with River. He was coming off a good win against Hunter Ione. So look, it was a well worth exercise, and I wanted to get back in the ring straight away. Boxing is all about consistency. Like you can't get good without being consistent, and that's not just in the
Mm.
gym. You have to be consistent with fighting. You look at all the good fighters; they're very active fighters. So I want to have 4 or 5 fights this year, and keep that going. That's where you learn. You can do as much as you want in the gym, but it's about putting it into practice in the fight night. And I felt I was very relaxed in my fight with River Daz.
Mm.
It was a very good fight for me to learn and practice and do some things that we've been working on. And I wanted to fight straight away again. 8 weeks later, May 7 on the Ace boxing card. Unfortunately, that's when we landed back from Thailand and Blake Minto pulled out. So I said to Brennan, stuff this, let's get a huge international fight. Let's get something big. I want to keep going. I can't wait around for the Mintos or any of the other blokes in Australia when they decide they want to fight. So I have to keep moving and keep progressing my career. And now we've got Apinun Khonsong next week, who's a former world title challenger. He was number 1 in the world with the IBF, and his only losses to Josh Taylor, the undisputed world champion. So that just speaks volumes of the caliber of opponent Brendan's able to bring in for me and the caliber of opponent that I'm willing to take on. I've always taken on the biggest challenges. I proved that time and time again.
Going back to the Tszyu fight, there was no doubt. I think, there was no doubt the fact that, given the short notice and whatnot, but what was the media like? I mean, that must have been crazy for you, right? Just in terms of the attention, and just being able to do all these obligations. But what was that aspect, what was that aspect like for yourself?
Yeah, mate, I loved every bit of it. I realized that is this side of the sport. I excel in that area as well. I believe I talk very well and conduct myself in a good manner and engage with people in a good way. People like to listen. So I took that with both hands, and I used that up as much as I could. And I believe I belong at that level, and that media continues to follow. It'll grow more and more and more.
And the second bit, which is crazy, and you wouldn't have experienced this because you were obviously walking out to fight. But me and my mate were sitting in my lounge room watching it, and he just looks at me, and I always wanted to tell you this story. He looks at me and he goes, "Holy fuck!" He goes, "Look at Stevie's followers count going up." And it's like, I've never seen the count actually in live going up. And so we're both sitting there and we're fucking watching it. We're watching the count go up, and we're like, "That's crazy!" Yeah, like literally, like we're watching the numbers go up, and I'm like, I've never seen that shit on IG before. And I was like, you know what?
That was crazy. From those 6 days, the amount that it went up was like,
it was crazy.
It's crazy.
Because I look back, I was like, fuck. But I'm so happy for you, man. And I genuinely mean, like, I'm a big fan. And I was actually telling my wife, I was actually telling my wife that too. I was like, I'm actually a big fan of Stevie, and I got to get some of his merch too. And I was telling her, but
definitely, man.
I love your style, man. I love how you come to box, and you're talking about the River Daz fight as well. You look fucking amazing in that, and you looked hungry, and you literally made a statement, man. And I know with media and with all these things, and them saying you're a nice guy and all this, and but genuinely your boxing style, I became a fan of it after that Brubaker fight, and I closely watched you and and whatnot. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on post Tim Tszyu fight, man. Not wasting time. Obviously you had to let your hand heal and whatnot, but other than that, just coming back and I can tell that's what you're chasing. That will, it doesn't matter not waiting, just kind of picking the next person that's obviously willing to fight, and it's going to get you one step closer to that, to that world championship status, man. So I'm genuinely a big fan, and I'm happy to hear that things are going well. Talk a little bit about this fight coming up. Obviously, you said that he was former title challenger. What's kind of your plan? Is that basically what I said? You're trying to obviously get to that number 1 spot, and
definitely, mate. Well, obviously we're fighting.
Right? So
we're fighting for my WBC title, and boxing is a business at the end of the day, and to get into the rankings and to continue to move up the rankings, you have to keep defending your regional title belts. That's just the way it is in this sport. So I'll be defending my WBC Australasia title for the 3rd time. I'll be the first person in Australia to do it. And look, that'll move me up the rankings, and hopefully it'll put me in the top 15 in the world, with the status of Khongsong, being a former world title challenger. He fought for the IBF and the WBA titles against Josh Taylor. Look, he got stopped, but at the end of the day, the man was number 1 in the world for a long time. And we actually tried to get a fight with him 2.5 years ago. I think it was just before he fought Josh Taylor. We offered them big money to come to Australia and fight, but they respectfully turned down because they had bigger things in mind. And we wanted that world.
That would have been crazy at that time as well if you did manage to have.
We wanted that number 1 spot. So look, since that Josh Taylor fight, I think he's had 2 or 3 fights back. He's put himself back in a spot where he can have a big fight, and it's against me. You got a former world title challenger and a current young world title chaser, and don't get me wrong, he's obviously looking to get back to that world title spot, but I'm going to put a stop to that. I'm chasing that world title. I'm hungry as ever. I'm putting in the overtime lately. Like I've come up a new level this year, and I'm really looking forward to, going out there and showing people what I can do and showing people the talent that I have. I've only tapped into, 50, 60% of my fights of what I can do, what I've done in the gym and what I know I'm capable of. I'm really looking forward to slowly getting better and better and becoming a more complete fighter each fight.
What's the, in terms of training, what's been kind of the mindset, I guess, even leading up post Tim's fight, and then obviously you got back to the gym after your hand healed, and then you had a couple of fights since then. What's your mindset been like, in terms of that shift from that whole experience with Tim Tszyu to now? I mean, you're always active, but it seems like I don't want to say eagerness, but it's like you're so sure of yourself. That's kind of the energy I get from you, and so you should. But it's easy telling somebody,
exactly
but it's easy feeding off it, and that's what I like about you, man. It's just even during the Tim Tszyu fight, even just your belief, like, didn't matter about the result. You went in there, you truly believed it, and even post seeing you training and seeing just even you involved with your community and things like that, the energy I get, and it has to be that because you're all the way in Toowoomba and I'm in Sydney. So it's not like, it's not like, we talk about these things, but yeah, it just seems like you're so sure of yourself, man. And I like that aspect of you, but yeah, that's what I get from you. Talk a little bit about that.
I heard a saying, a while back, and it's the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right.
Mm.
And that resonated with me. I think self-belief is a huge thing. If you think you can do something, you can. If you think you can't, you won't. So I've really leveled up in the mind, and I just know I'm going to win a world title. I know no matter what happens, I'm more skilled than all of these blokes, even on the world level. I watch and I know what I can do, and I've watched myself fight, and I just know I'm levels above these guys. I just need to gain that experience, and that's what it's about. That's why I want to be active, and I truly believe at super lightweight, I'm so strong. I'm fast. I have all the skills there. I believe I have it all. I have, you look at all great fighters. They have a self-belief that is, that can't be knocked, and you have to have that. You have to have that to be a world champion. You can't have any creeping doubt. Don't get me wrong. I wake up some days and I think about my opponent and the possibility of him beating me, and that's what drives me to train. But at the end of the day, ultimately, when the gloves go in and I'm hopping into that ring, I know I'm going to leave victorious. You have to think that, you have to be kind of half blinded by it in a way, if you want to be a world champion. So I back myself all the way to the end. I back myself 100%.
What's well, I touched on a little bit about something that I see that you take pride in, man, is your love for your community and even just the way you train the kids. Talk a little bit about that aspect. It's something that even last time we spoke, we never really touched on, but obviously there were early days, and I've since seen you a lot more, like what you're doing and your activity and stuff. Like, talk a little bit about what that means to you and in the importance of giving back, because I can see that's a it's a very powerful and truthful, I guess, kind of thing to do for yourself, from what I see.
Yeah, without people who support me, I would have nothing. Who would I be fighting for? What would I be fighting for? So the people that show up and support me, and especially in a town like Toowoomba, they give a lot to me and supported me through the ups. And the couple of downs that I've had, they've always supported me and been behind me and backed me. So the least I can do is sort of give back in a little way that I can, in the only way that I know. And I feel like sometimes it's not a whole lot, but it's the most I can give. And fighting back in Toowoomba here, it's been nearly like 2 years. So I think the whole town's buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. This could very well be the last time that I fight in Toowoomba. So it's pretty exciting for the town. There's a big buzz going around. And the community here in Toowoomba is really good, man. Like they get behind me so well, and I have so many great sponsors and supporters. And even just like the town, man, like I walk around and so many people coming up to me and saying g'day. And the craziest thing is like when you get kids like pointing at you and they're telling their mum and dad like, hey, that's Stevie Spark, you know.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
still like,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, and it's,
Yeah.
and to me, man, like that's, you sort of got to pinch yourself, and it
Yeah.
humbles me a bit, you know. But I never think that I'm better than anyone or
No.
anything like that. I always have time. I think after the zoo fight, I stayed in the arena, and I got, even after I'd been knocked out, I'd stayed in that arena and I got photos and pictures with people for over an hour from leaving the ring back to thing. Like, you know, people that are there, that makes their day, their night, whatever, their week, you know. So the least I can do is, you know, give back to them. And that way they're the ones spending their hard-earned money. You know, they go to work and spend their hard-earned money to come watch me fight and entertain. And the least we can do is, you know, give back to them and them in a way that they want and they like.
And sometimes it doesn't have to be a lot to give back either. You know what I mean? Like
No.
it's the most simple things that make people happy sometimes, you know, which is a very important trait to have. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, to be honest, man, like just the way you came into that card and the way you just, it all came about. I mean, I remember seeing it on a story and it had all the bunch of names, and me being a genuine fan, I was like, obviously, you know, you can select the different names you want, you know, whatever. And then from there to like, holy shit, like, I think this, you know, I mean, talk about that, man. I don't think we even touched on that. Like just that whole moment of when you know, you must have just been chilling and whatever. And then next minute,
Well,
like all of a sudden,
funny enough, I actually already knew that I kind of had the fight by that point when they Ozboxing put that
obviously
out.
by the time we hear it, it'll be
So I got the call. I got the call at work. It was like 9 a.m. or something, and Brennan rang me and because he asked, "How's your hand?" I was like, "Oh, you know, it's pretty bloody sore." He's like, "Is it bad enough to fight Tim Tszyu next week?" And I was like, "Hey, I couldn't believe it." You know, And then you know, so I left work, told my boss straight away. I was like, "Look, I got to go to the gym. I got to, you know, make a decision on something." So we went there and made that decision. And Brennan's like, "Look, we'll just wait." He's like, "I'll tell him that it's a yes and the money's a yes and everything." And like, look, that afternoon, I pretty much, Brennan said, "Look, it's on. We're just waiting on the contract to be sent through." And then Ozboxing put that up. I thought I'd just drop that comment in about, you know, my bloods are good. I'm good to go. I'll fly down. You don't need things up this week. Like, just, you know, to amp it up a bit more and get the train rolling on the media and the hype and everything like that. So, it was still a huge buzz. It was such an exciting thing, the whole lot. And
how are you? How are you? Like, I feel like that's kind of where you were headed, but like, how were you at that moment, the second you knew and it was going to happen? I mean, you know, there's training camps and things like that for a reason, right? And all of, like, I'm not saying, you know, you would have been in shape, but obviously you're thinking about your hand and all the, you know what I mean? In terms of mind space, you would have had to quickly switch into that killer instinct. So talk a bit about that.
Well,
that was interesting.
Since the Brubaker fight, I hadn't even had a spar. So the first thing I said to Brennan, we need to have a spar this afternoon. So I actually sparred my brother-in-law, Jake Wiley, just with the right hand, just one hand. Didn't use my left hand at all. He come in and helped me out for like 5 or 6 rounds. I just sparred with the right hand. And then, you know, I was like, we need to get one more of those in before I go. At least get something, you know, a little bit of timing. I was thinking, if I can just catch Tim with that one right hand, I'll be right.
Well, to your credit, he did say you hit hard. So, you know.
And, you know, it's so frustrating because, like, I wasn't in shape. I had no timing, no fitness, no strength. You know, it was just what I'm like, I would have liked to have been in the shape I'm in now, even weighing what I weigh. Like,
that's why I asked you, because because, you know,
but life unfolds the way it does sometimes. And look, as great as that was, I had to, the moment that fight finished and everything that come with it, I had to leave it there. And then, okay, let's go to the new chapter. And that's why I have been the way I've been lately. And I'm a man on a mission now. Like, I've left that in the past. We got what we wanted from it, and now we move on. And we're on a mission to win a world title.
That experience would have done more good than bad for you. You know what I mean? Regardless of the results.
It taught me a lot of lessons about myself, about what I need to do, about the things that are important. It taught me a lot of things, mate. So I've grown as a person from that.
How's training, man? So what's training like? You know, is there new things that you've kind of implemented now that, you know, because, man, that River Daz fight, like, I mean, regardless of whatever, who you fought or whatever, you personally, just how you looked and how explosive you were and fast you were. Like, you know, you
Thank you.
literally, yeah, it just, you looked good, man. And I mean, you know, obviously, and even seeing in the Brubaker fight, like, you know, that's kind of where I just your style and just, you know, the way, you know, you come to fight, you know, and even after getting, you know, dropped and then getting up, you know, you didn't change. You, if anything, it probably looked like it ticked you off a little bit, and you went that extra gear. But yeah, talk a little bit about training, man, and some of the new things. You know, all these experiences would have, you know, probably opened so many gateways in your mind in terms of training, right, and what you can implement.
Definitely. Yeah, look, it's we've for this camp mainly, we did a lot of sparring. You know, like I've been doing so much sparring. We've been up in the rounds. Obviously, you know, the better you get, the higher level you get. You know, the more sparring you have to do, and the higher level you have to spar. We've been getting a lot of rounds in. I've been doing a lot more strength work. I've got a good strength coach now. You know, building that good base, and not just building it, but continue to grow it as well. Grow that base. A lot of deadlifts, a lot of strength work, and you know, when we went to Thailand, it was dealing with just different types of adversity. You know, like you spoke about getting dropped in a fight. You know, when we rocked up to Thailand, the second day we were there, we walked into this gym, and literally it was like a fight call out. The Thais were all yelling, bah, 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 and they pointed at me. They're like, you jump in here. And I was going to wear my gloves, but I couldn't. They're like, no, you got to wear these gloves. And they were big 22-ounce gloves. Jump in here and spar. And there's like people pushing you back into the center of the ring. It was just like a hectic experience. 5-minute rounds when I thought it was going to be threes. It was just, and it was that different type of adversity that you have to deal with. And I think those sorts of things, Brendan's been throwing little things like that at me all the time, little hurdles, little hoops that I have to overcome. Because in a fight, look, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have to overcome adversity. You're going to have drama. You're going to have things you deal with that might not be according to plan, and they might tick you off and piss you off, but you have to be able to put it aside with no emotion and think about the job at hand. You can't let emotion drive you in this sport too much. You know, as soon as emotion takes over, that's when you stop thinking. You know, you got to think with your head, not your heart. And that's the biggest thing. We've been overcoming a lot of adversity and, you know, hard training sessions, man. It just goes up. Each camp, I take it up a level. And this camp, we've gone up another level again, you know, like the sparring and the level of sparring. I've always mostly spar super welterweights now, and it's been really good, mate. I'm probably in I know everyone says this, you know, they're like, I'm in the shape of my life.
Yeah.
I've had the best camp. Look, I've had little niggles in my hand, of course. I always do. I have that in my right hand, little niggles here and there. I hurt my shoulder a little bit. Like, you know, you go through all these little things. But as of today, I'm speaking, I feel good. There's no niggles now. I think any fighter that comes out after a fight and they go, I was sick, or I was this, or, you know, I've woken up on fight week and had gastro before, and you just got to deal with these things, because at the end of the day, that's your job. Just get in there. And I commend every fighter that makes it to the post. You know, the ones that are sitting there and they get wrapped up and they get into the ring, and whatever their injury may be or whatever their sickness may be, they get in the ring and they fight, and because that's your job. You make it to the post.
What's you touched on your strength training. So is that something, I mean, that is more of recent times that you've introduced as part of your training, or is it something that you've kind of always implemented as part of your training?
Done it,
yeah,
but I've got more structure with it now. You
Mm.
know, and I'm always the type of people like, oh, what's your training schedule like? And I'm like, I can't really answer that because it's forever changing. Week to week's changing. Like, if I've got a hard spar on a Wednesday with, you know, a bigger fella, you know, the day before, I'm not in the gym smashing myself on the weights, because there's no point me entering that ring on the Wednesday and getting belted around the head more because my legs are too tired or my arms are too tired because I went too hard. You know, it's definitely about, you know, we try and structure our strength training the day after the spar, or, you know, 2 days before the spar, where we're not draining our energy too much or taking away from the spar, or even the track work, you know, because at the end of the day, I'm not a runner, I'm a fighter, you know, and I'm not a weightlifter, I'm a fighter. Yes, I think those things are important, and it's good to have structure around those. And I think you need to structure it around your sessions more, your boxing sessions. I think some fighters get a little bit too carried away on how much strength, how much conditioning. You know, at the end of the day, your best conditioning is your boxing, is your sparring, is your training, you know. So
I love it.
I think it's important to keep that there, and, you know, work everything else around there. You know, my strength coach and Brendan, they work together, and myself, we work together. I'm a fighter. I have a fighter's mentality. So sometimes I'm a bit like, let's go. And I'll finish a spar and I want to do this and I want to do that. And, they're going to pull the reins a bit. And I've got to listen to them. And that's what coaches are for, is, taking that fighter's mentality out of me and the training aspect, and listening to the coaches and staying the course and realizing, we've got 8 weeks here or 10 weeks, whatever it may be. And we're leaning towards to peaking on June 11th. There's no point peaking this weekend or the weekend before. You're going to have your ups and downs in training camp. One week you feel good, then you're going to feel bad. The idea is to feel good here on June 11th. On 9 p.m. at June 11, that's when I have to feel good, perfect, and everything got to fall just right. So whatever it may be with training, injuries, sickness, you got to peak right at the right time.
It's crazy when you do, though, like peak and you're thinking, holy shit, like, because all you're thinking about is the ups, the downs, and the fucking being beat up, and then all of a sudden you just,
feeling good.
Feel like it's a next level energy, but you realize all that is true, like get peaking at the right time and training sessions. Like I know George St. Pierre's coach, he believes in this 70% rule where you don't go too hard so you don't burn out, so that you turn up.
If you go so hard, you're too sore, you can't train the next day.
The next day, and slowly amp it up.
Don't get me wrong, you occasionally do need those, and he even says that occasionally you need that. We're gonna take no,
but not constantly hammering yourself over a period of time where you end up
breakdown
sessions. Exactly. Because you're always going to go hard, and I think if you are a fighter, you're always going to see how far I can push it, you know what I mean, and that's just part of the whole pedigree of training and dealing with it and whatnot. So talk a little bit about just I guess in terms of, because the reason I asked you and the answer was perfect, man, because ultimately you're a boxer. So your skills and your, everything to do with your boxing IQ and like you could be fast on it, not to take anything away from track work or anything like that, because I do think it's important. Yeah, like I was actually telling one of my guys, I'm itching to get to the tracks as well, because you understand it, but the speed of boxing, the speed of how you punch.
I put it this way: if I'm sparring a bloke and I'm in there and I won't know the difference between a bloke who's bench pressing 100 kilo or a bloke that's pressing 200 kilo. I don't know. I won't really feel the difference in there if I'm sparring. But I tell you what, I will feel the difference is if there's a huge level and skill set. If I'm sparring a beginner or an amateur or a seasoned pro, I won't feel the difference on a bloke who can bench press maybe 40 kilos more than me or something like that. But if he's got a higher level skill of me, then I'm going to notice the difference. If I'm sparring someone like Lomachenko, I'm guaranteeing you he does his strength work, but his skill level is just so far above everyone. That's why he makes everyone look ordinary. Lifting all these weights or running that much faster than track, it is important. But if I do 10 more push-ups than you, it doesn't mean I'm going to be better than you. I think skill is still very important. Skills pay the bills, and you have to be good at what you do.
And that's repetition in the gym doing boxing.
Exactly. It's hours and hours. And it's not just repetition, it's repetition the correct way. Don't drill until you get it right. Drill until you can't get it wrong. Everyone has their own little style and everyone punches a little bit different. But the idea is to try and drill that correctly. What you do in the gym will come out in the fight. If you're drilling, bringing your hand back low, or, if you're drilling, dropping your hands or not rolling after the right hand, whatever it may be, when you get tired and when you start fighting on subconscious, because a lot of the time when you're under pressure and you're fighting, you fight on instinct, you fight on subconscious. So you just do what you muscle memory, memory. So that'll come out in the fight when you're tired and you're later deeper on the rounds. And that's why you see, the mistakes start to happen the longer the fight goes.
And even with styles, like you were saying, there's so many different variations of how people punch or whatever. But you can, it's crazy though, right? But they're not technically doing anything wrong. They still,
I can spar one fella and it's quite easy. And, and then you spar someone else and you just find their timing's a little bit different and you can't, the footwork's a little bit, it just puts you off, and it just makes it a little bit harder to figure out. Some styles work well together, and that's why they say styles make fights. But the idea is to try and, that's why I talk about experience with all of these different fights, is, you know, fight as many different styles as you can, spar as many different styles as you can. You know, don't get stuck in your comfort zone of just sparring the people that you might get it over with, or, you know, seek for those opportunities of uncomfortableness. That's where you grow, and that's where you're going to improve as a person and as an athlete. You know, the moments where you don't enjoy what you're doing because it's hard, you know, the moments where you might not be the better person in the spar, but, you know, the idea for that is you grow in the uncomfortable and you adapt to that style. So, you know, hopefully when I do fight for my world title one day, I've seen everything. I've seen every style possible. So no matter what he throws at me, no matter what he does, I'm ready. I'm like, bro, I've seen this. I can do this easy. Like, whatever you throw at me today, you're not going to have it. I'm going to have an answer for everything you do.
It's definitely a championship mindset, bro, which is good to see, you know. But look, man, won't keep you for too long, but genuinely, man, I appreciate and something that I hope people get to, you know, when they watch it, get to hear me say this. But like, even after the Tszyu fight, even with everything, you know, your relationship, even just with me and supporting me, always remained, which I loved. And what I loved more is after I flicked you a message after your last fight, just congratulating you, you yourself said, man, let's jump on it, and you know, I'm keen to come back on and do a podcast, which meant a lot to me, man. Which lent, you know, I know people.
Thank you. I love being on,
people
mate.
may
It's
not
great.
hear those stories, or you know, they may not, you know, the media and whatever. You know, I don't call myself media, but these are the things that people don't see or hear. You know what I mean? And that was something that stood out to me, and I felt like it had to be said. Was, yeah, you reaching out to me and telling me you wanted to hop on. You know, for me, you know, it not only was a big thing, but it, you know, for me, I see you as a world champion, and I see you as someone that, you know, that has that pedigree to be that, and to be able to for you to reach out to me, that meant everything. And you know, you're definitely a big part of this platform and this brand, and with my podcast and putting it out there. You know, and I know there'll be many more. But hell yeah.
One day when I win that world title, mate, we can come back
Well,
on and have another